More music videos. I've been doing this new releases series now for over a year, and this is the fourth for this year. Although bearing in mind I also did a sort of magazine style, very brief summary to keep pace with the quantity of releases, and there'll be another one of those shortly after this video. But I had to get this one in before. This is my fourth episode with some fairly comprehensive review of the material, and I will be looking at 4 albums on this particular video. So less of the aimless chat, and let's get on to the first one. I've chosen a band called Spoon. I've got a lot of their albums, but I have to say if they were actually on the shelf, they would have collected a lot of dust. I haven't listened to many of them, although I've got probably a dozen. But what I can recall of what I heard, I thought they were quite pleasing to the ear, albeit a little bit heavy rock style. Anyway, I've decided to review their new one. It's called Lucifer on the Sofa, and it's their 10th studio album. It took 3 years to complete, courtesy of COVID and other distractions, but they wanted to replicate their live-bound sound, a very fresh sound, even though the band are 30 years old. As I said, haven't heard much of the previous material, so I would consider this almost to be a new band for me. But anyway, love this album, crisp rock sound. I wouldn't describe it as indie. I would describe it as classic rock with a bit of pop. As always, time to go through the track list. And these lads, they know how to tune things up. There's a solid guitar riff that takes centre stage before the vocals are added. It's a favourite apparently from the group's early 2000s shows. It's a power rock with a nod to heavy rock. Past masters without being too heavy. Next is The Hardest Cut. This was the first single apparently. A fast rock rhythm draws on the guitar chugging groove, and there's some booming solos. Hints at Texas ZZ Top solos, I felt, meshed in with some of John Entwistle's and Keith Moon's Who chords. Next up is The Devil and Mr. Jones. I love this one. It's got a very lazy beat and the tone is softer but highly listenable. Ooze type harmonies no less. Lead vocals drive the song. It's got a tasteful guitar which is nourished with the keyboards. And then there's some horns that blurt out, adding another layer of polish to a standout track with its piercing hooks. Single now up next is called Wild. It segues in from the previous track. Sounded a little bit like In Excess, I felt a little. Great beat though. One critic describes this track as the band flirting with writing a bona fide anthem with echoes to Bruce Springsteen and Bob Seger, would you have it believed. Search for salvation, the critic said. Well, I'm not so sure about that. I'd be interested to know what you might think about it, but it's very palatable. My Babe's next, a big piano sprinkled ballad. The acoustic guitar meshes neatly with the piano and keyboard as this love song holds your attention until the twin guitars sparkle out of the speakers. Feels Alright is next. Bit standard, punchy rock tune really, with some crunchy lead guitar work. And then we move on to On the Radio. This felt very fresh with nice piano thrusting the beat and heavy chords firing up the sound. The title indicates its probable format. And then Astral Jacket, very nice piano intro on this one, and some nice close harmonies and mellow electronic piano bolster the reputation for music that may well be suitable for late night drifting moods. Sure you remember what they were like. And then Satellite, more laid back this one, but catchy smooth rock. Great vocals and a soaring guitar solo that shoots you to the stars. There's a lot of melodramatic feel to this one, perhaps a touch of glammy art rock, and it's got a waltz feel to it. And then to the title track, which closes us out, Lucifer on the Sofa, has a smooth road feel with a glossy, smoochy touch, some great harmonies, and a midnight ramble through Austin set to ghostly keys and saxophone seem to be covered in the lyric. Well, I have to say, I'm not that familiar with this band, but if their albums are half as good as this one, I better get stuck into them. Extremely impressed with this piece of work, and it's certainly going to be in my top 20 at the end of the year. If you're interested, there's another review, and I've got a link to it, from a music site that I do enjoy. It's called Spectrum Pulse, and they tend to review new music alongside other things, and so give them a listen, and then let's get on to the next album. So that's Lucifer on the Sofa by Spoon. Second album on this re-releases episode 4 is the second album by Black Country New Road. Now this band last year, when they released their debut in February 2021, they're from London, by the way, and they offered very much a tangle of post-rock with jazz folk intimacy. It was pretty original, and it really went down very well with critics and listeners alike. Little else resembled their indie landscape contemporary sound, with bags of originality and a lot of risk-taking was the order of the day. The 7-piece band even notched a Mercury Prize nomination for their efforts, while somehow managing then to produce a follow-up exactly a year later. The frontman and creative linchpin Isaac Wood, though, has shocked us all when he suddenly quit the group just days before the second was released, and I understand there were mental health problems which precipitated this. The record, however, is much like the first, but possibly even better. Avant-garde jazz collide with smartly written guitar pop with a touch of world music. The album's title refers to the appearance of people while viewed from an airplane, tying in with the cover and the recurring lyrical theme of the Concorde jet. Now you know. And now we're going to go through that track list. Intro is the first track, and there's a sprightly horn montage that takes us into a tight jazz rock feel, energetic, and it acting much like an entree to your later main meal. It's very intriguing. Chaos Space Marine follows, and then we start to get a wider picture. We can grasp bits of fiddle, sax and piano, and they all show up. The ecstatic and complex arrangements will 1 second give you post-punk horn-driven dramas, and next you'll receive a jazz rock amalgam that hints at the Dexys sort of Midnight Runners stroke soft machine type of music from yesteryear. It's impressive, that's for sure, even if you can't pigeonhole the sound, and Wood's hoarse vocals add further experimentation to the full sound. The avant-garde jazz collides with smartly written guitar pop, and it really is a peach. What's next? Slow rhythms here which build with guitars, drums, voice, piano, and it creates a jigsaw of sonic sounds. And then we build towards the outro from the sax that eases into the collage. Mesmerising tones here, described by another critic as cosy and sprawling. There's some mandolin that adds a snappy take to this, and a very spiky element to the song. Next up's Bread Song. We've got some rolling acoustic akin to a folk intro with vocals that accompany this intro on the 4th track. Add some arrangements with horn and strings and it becomes a part jazz avant-garde piece. Absolutely beautiful. Good Will Hunting arrives next. A skippy rhythm hints at medieval jinx amidst the vocal of 2. Strange, unique bridge before the bluster beats more explosive punk-style rhythms. And then to one of my favourite tracks, Haldern. There's a beautiful flute intro. Then the piano and sax creates a lazy jazz feel that builds slovenly with rhythmic patterns that I really like. The violin guitar mix is highly imaginative, it has to be said. Mark's theme is next, an instrumental written by Evans following the passing of his uncle Mark from COVID in 2021. There's a solo sax that consumes one's psyche before the piano delicately laps onto the mood that's solemn as it should be. And then we get to the place where he inserted the blade. Interesting title. Poignant vocals are added to this jaunty, more up-tempo collage of sweet horns that merge with the guitars and the keyboards. There's a flute that lays out the placid tempo, but the song builds impressively into a celebratory sing-along. Moving on to Snow Globes. 9 minutes this track. It has a life that grows as the music unfolds on top of the piano lead with horns lilting in and out. It has a melancholic feel and a fatalistic feel to it as the drums become frenetic before the violin takes over. And now we've reached the finale. Basketball Shoes. This is a climax really to a 5-star piece of work. Hyde, bassist, described the closing song as essentially a medley of the whole album, and I tend to agree with him. It contains motifs repeated from the album's earliest songs. Again, it's a hypnotic jazz piece highlighting sax early on as it builds layer upon layer. Halfway in, the violins are followed by a repeated guitar chord that sharpens the beat as the final 5 minutes are a crescendo of complex sounds with brief bridges to refill the powerful horn and guitar keyboard heaviness. It's simply superb. So, catching my breath, this is a 5-star piece of work. There's absolutely no doubt about that. I will include a slide, of course, with the track list and the band members. And I think it's also worth mentioning that there's a video in the description to Concord, which is very interesting, and also an interview. So I'm trying to do its justice. But this is definitely going to be in my top 10, as it probably will with most critics. So there we have it. That's the second album from the tremendous Black Country band, Black Country New Road, called, and let's get the title right, Ants Up, and I've forgotten the title, as usual. Ants from Up There. Got it. Here is a band called Young Gov, or Young Governor, and this is their third album, appropriately titled Gov 3. This is the creation of one Toronto-based vocalist and guitarist, Ben Cook. After launching his career with a raw garage band, rock hardcore band, No Warning, in the early 2000s, in 2005 he split, joining another band called Fucked Up for a short period before he started his own band, Young Gov, and he steered the band in a more melodic direction. We got the 2010 Right for Love, and then he went on an R&B 80s detour on Too Sad Too Funk in 2018. We've had power pop with Gov 1 and Gov 2, and now we're on to the classic jangle pop of Gov 3. Ben Cook knows how to whip together jangling guitars, big vocal harmonies, and sugar smack melodies into something pleasant on the ear. This is more of the same with their combination Gov series, a non-stop blast, and there's a ballad at the end. But we get really a full taste of chiming 12-string guitars, power chords, vocal harmonies, melancholic moods, earnest lead vocals, and the occasional ripping guitar solo. It's pure power pop, and I'm going to go through some of the tracks now. Then it couldn't leave you if I tried. If you take you back to the late 60s, or maybe into the 90s, you'll be hearing the Byrds, or perhaps the Lemonheads. The jangly guitars sound sweet and forever appealing to my ears. Only Dancing is next up, just a catchy power pop song. Low Lonely has a bit more of a rock punch here, but the lush harmonies are a standout. And then Only Wanna See You Tonight, very nice catchy song, had elements of George Harrison's style guitar on this one. And then I'm going to skip forward a bit to track 9, She Don't Cry For Anyone. I was waiting for McGuinn's distinctive vocal delivery on this. It's the only thing really missing from this track. Again, the harmonies are standout. And then that ballad that closes it out, April of My Life. A complete change of mood. It's got woodwinds and delicate acoustic-laden vocals. It's very folk medieval with flutes. It still retains an 80s feel and has some sort of Beatlish soft harmonies. Well, this is a beautiful piece of work, really. Very pleasant on the ear, but it gets a little bit repetitive. But if I could play this music, I would be full of it. But it's probably going to get lost in the collage of indie rock music. But I suggest you give it a listen. It's Gov 3 and it's by Young Gov. Last review on this episode 4 is by a band called Alt J, and their new album is called The Dream. Very much indie rock, British style. And they won the British Mercury Prize for their debut album in 2012, which was called An Awesome Wave. We've had to wait 5 years for this album, although I have to confess I haven't heard any of the others. But I'm going to try and find out about them after this, which I found thoroughly enjoyable. There's evocative storytelling, a wide range of ideas. It's got that trance synthesized feel to it with Brit pop, eccentric odd sounds I wrote, which keep you alert to the host of surprises that swell the sounds. And this is their 4th album. We're going to go through the tracks now. I listened to this again yesterday and I added a notch to my ranking of it. I'd make this 5-star. But let's hear the tracks. Opens up the album. It's got some spacey guitar that phases following the inaudible spoken word before a Highgate School choir joins the mood with church-like keyboards. It's experimental psychedelic soft synth pop and I liked it. You and Me is next, a bit more choir on this, soft rock with eerie harmonies, some nice violins and percussions that catches the senses. And then track 3, a standout, Hard Drive Gold. Apparently this was, they made a video of this. It's a song about cryptocurrency, but it's musically more sedate. But the content is more sort of dark, really, about how the planet is colliding, heading towards a collision, which none of us are going to appreciate. The choir are back and they hit a chorus that has a great impact. Happier When You're Gone, next up. Another tale here about murder, no less, with effective use of the choir to generate mystic mood with the strings. Intriguing stuff. And then we get to The Actor. This has an 80s feel. It reminded me a little bit of Soft Cell crossed with The Cure. The vocals soothe and coupled with the soft trance electronics they focus makes for a relaxed listen. Get Better's up next. This is a tender heartbreaker that features lyrics that focus on loss and death. So get the Kleenex ready when you listen to this one. The music is very stripped back, but very, very accomplished. Chicago is the next track, and I heard echoes of Jeff Buckley's emotionally drenched vocals on this, which join up with guitars that are back in the mix, and they march to the front as the track continues in a very powerful way, mixed with psychedelic synth beats. It's very impressive with classical style piano towards the outro. And then we have Philadelphia. This recruits an opera singer and a harpsichord for a dramatic thumper. It's innovative in spades. Walk a Mile. There's some beautiful a cappella on the intro here that leads to a slow, sultry beat. And there's those chant-like vocals with the strings and eloquent guitar towards the back end. And then on to the final tracks, which seem to be very knitted together. Delta flips into Losing My Mind, continues experimentation. I guess the title of the album is The Dream, so no surprises here. There's some spoken word mixed with the arrangements, which had a choral feature. And then finally, Powder's got a silky, slow vocal that drives this soft rock number. Pleasant on the ear is certainly an appropriate way to describe this album and this band. Thoroughly enjoyable set of songs, constantly surprising the listener with a wealth of ideas which feature their talents. I've got another review of this album if you want to check it out. It's by Anthony Fontano, whose channel is called The Needle Drop. He is an excellent reviewer of new music and also occasionally classics. He's got his own style, but his use of language is superb, and he covers a lot of ground, far more than I can. So you can click onto that if you wish. And in the description, I also have, I'm sure I had something else. Oh yeah, I've got an interview with the guy from Alt J, and I've got an interview from Britt Daniel from Spoon. They're both linked in at the end of the description, or is it the beginning of the description? That's my lot. Episode 4 done and dusted.